Well, hello everybody. Welcome to the Crystal Crawford Show. It's another week. We are in season 4, episode 7, and I am excited about today. I know I say that every week, but seriously, I am excited about today because I called this week's episode, and you may be wondering why I'm excited about this. Coping. Is this what's destroying your life? I thought we'd do a nice light topic for a fall, blustery, rainy Ontario day. So welcome. I'm really glad you're here. If you have stumbled on this episode as a first timer, I'm so glad you're here. Did I mention that already? This is an Access Consciousness show. So I'm a certified facilitator with Access Consciousness. And on this show, I take a topic and I riff in and around it and give tools and examples from my life and stories I probably shouldn't tell in public, so in an effort to contribute to you in case this is something that you're dealing with. Now, you can find more out about Access Consciousness at accessconsciousness.com. You can go to theclearingstatement.com to find out more about that. And you can go to my website, hi Unati, hi Suzanne, to find out everything else, crystaljoycrawford.com. So with all of that in front of us, let's start. So I know this is probably not one of those like catchy titles where you're like, oh my God, I have to listen to this. But if you're listening to this, you are brave and you are smart. So this topic came up in last week, I have no idea what day it is, in a, hi Maxine, in a club, hi Mara, in a club consciousness call with Shannon O'Hara. And honestly, and I don't have an affiliate link with this statement, but if you know Shannon O'Hara and you are not in club consciousness, that is a big mistake. You need to get in there. It's like game changing. And so the call this month was all about coping. And this is really where this got inspired from. But since that call, I have been using this question, using this awareness with every single one of my private clients. And what's been changing is so dynamic and so fast that I wanted to talk to you guys about it. Coping is this thing that we all do in different ways. And the reason it hit home so much for me is that the last 3 months for me have been really, really privately intense. Now, I've been changing a lot of things like I do all the time. But probably the things that I've been changing the most are my daily choices. Like I've been really taking care of my body. I've been really being aware and conscious of movement and food. But the third thing that I've been really diving into is this certain type of reaction that I've always done to different people in different relationships from my mom onward that has been really, really destructive and really, really hard on me. And you might have noticed that I have a call out right now called Going Beyond Reaction. You better believe that's probably 100% of it going to be about coping. But I didn't know that I was coping until I was on Shannon's call. And I am going to sort of go into what I mean by that. Anytime you are trying to balance out the insanity that you become aware of with insanity, you're coping. Now, coping can show up in all different kinds of ways. It can show up as leaving. It can show up as reacting. It can show up as overthinking. It can show up as thinking. It can show up as figuring out. It can show up as trying to figure out how. It can show up as wanting to give up. It can show up as wanting to die. It can show up as all these different things. And I don't even know if I'm going to be able to talk about it for 30 minutes today without all of your questions, because that's really what's brought up my awareness of like, oh my God, are you coping? Is your questions. But let's see how we go. But there are so many things. What this did for me is I started to look at this particular reaction I was having to Andres in particular, my partner, who is my everyday, hi Kavita, hi Iwona. It was always around, I always had this reaction around a particular set of energies that I became aware of. Now, I knew it was happening. I knew that I was becoming an insane, frothing at the mouth biatch in those moments. But the part that there was 2 parts that I didn't acknowledge, and I wanted to gift this to you in the hopes that this contributes to stuff you may have going on. I didn't acknowledge that fully. I didn't acknowledge fully that I had become aware of a set of energies going on in his world. And that simultaneous to that, I was trying to balance them out. Here was my because. Not that your because is relevant, but I want to go into it a little bit. Because they didn't make sense to me. And maybe that was it. Because they didn't make sense to me. I didn't understand why he was being and choosing those particular energies. And this is not even relevant to something that he needed to change. This is just like, he's his own person. He's got his own shit going on, right? Like, we're going through a major transition right now with his job and all kinds of things. And he's his own person. So, I mean, this is going to be true for like anybody that you have in your life, right? They're their own person. They have their own shit going on. It has nothing to do with you. And even if it has something to do with you, it has nothing to do with you. But he would have this shit going on. I would become aware of it. And then I would go fucking insane, separating from the very person I wanted to be closest to. I would separate. I would get angry. I would be frustrated that I was angry. I would go into reaction. I would push away the very person I wanted to be closest to. And I could see myself doing it, and I just fucking couldn't stop. And so I've done everything over the last 3 months, man. I created clearing loops, and I've created like, all the things. I've used the tools of who does this belong to, and like, who am I being? I've done it all, but I had never once acknowledged that I was trying to balance out the insanity with insanity and coping with what I had become aware of. Now, this is fucking huge. Because what I started to look at is coping. I looked at a lot of things. Coping is not thriving. Coping is not a choice for living. Coping is trying not to die. Now that sounds extreme, but that's exactly what it is. Like, when you are just coping with money, you're trying not to die. You're trying not to live on the street. You're basically trying not to go under, right? When you're thriving with money, when you make a choice to thrive with money, that's a whole different universe. When you're just coping being in your body, right? With your body's awareness, with care of your body, with creating with your body, you're just coping with your body. You create something totally different than when you make a choice to create with and to thrive with your body. And so much of this has become so blatant to me after having the conversation, because I have made a lot of choices recently to thrive, right? So, Melissa, yes, I've been saying this forever. Coping skills is this crazy ideal in psychology that I am so over. Coping is trying not to die. So true. Yeah. So like, with my body, for example, like, I'm starting a new program that you guys are invited to called Making Your Body a Priority. And it is really the choice to thrive. Now, for me, I'm going to use this 12-week program by Mish Bridges, and I'm using this app, and I've got all these tools and supports that I'm using to support my choice to thrive. And you can use what you want to use, but that choice over the last 12 weeks has like transformed my level of engagement in my life. And so I'm watching the choice to thrive transform things, right? I've made similar choices with money. Like, I just stopped coping with money and I started to thrive. I still find small pockets where I'm still just not dying, right? Like, I'm still not dying. I'm still just not dying, which is coping. But for me, in this particular area, and you may find this in your own life where you've just got particular areas where you're barely hanging on by your fingernails, right? Like, you're just reacting all the time, or you're just avoiding all the time, or you're just in those particular areas. Are you coping? Yes or no? So I have 2 clearings that I got from Shannon, that Shannon got from Gary Douglas, that I actually am going to give you one of them here. And what I would recommend that you do with this is that you get your phone out, you get that app on your phone that you can speak into that loops clearings. I use Voice Loop on iPhone, and actually do this and let this clearing run over and over and over and over, because coping is so pervasive. It is so insidious, and you don't even realize you're doing it until you get into a conversation like this and you start looking, you're like, holy fuck, I was coping there, I was coping there, I was coping with awareness. And it's always coping with awareness. So here's the clearing. What coping mechanisms are you using to balance the insanities you are choosing that you think you cannot change. And everything that is times a godzillion will you destroy and uncreate it all. Right, wrong, good, bad, POD, POC, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. What coping mechanisms are you using to balance the insanities you are choosing that you think you cannot change? And everything that is times a godzillion will you destroy and uncreate it all. Right, wrong, good, bad, POD, POC, all nine shorts, boys and beyonds. So let me go a little bit deeper into my example of what I was being and choosing with Andres that I really honestly felt like I couldn't change. And that was really driving me crazy because I can fucking change anything. But this particular reaction had been a choice I had been making since I was a kid. Okay, so here's so the latest is, it's still changing, right? But yeah, okay, so the latest is like, oh gosh, where do I start with this? So each of us come into, you know, especially intimate relationships, we each come in with like all kinds of stuff, right? And all of us come in with different levels of healing around this. And I've done a lot of work on myself. I've done a lot of healing. I've done a lot of consciousness, right? So I have a lot of tools available. My sweet man has different things going on and different tools. So he would do this thing where he would project that I was going to be mad. He would pre-project that I was going to be mad about something he was going to choose. And what would happen is I wasn't super clear on this for like 3 months, but I started to really pull it apart. I'm like, what is it that I'm becoming aware of? Okay. So I would get aware instantly. And this is the thing about awareness is it's instantaneous. You perceive it with your body and you become it, especially if you're not aware that you're becoming aware, right? So you become these unseen, unsaid, unspoken, undisclosed energies. And you're just like, and that's the level of awareness we have. We become the energies that we're aware of until we're so adept at recognizing that we are aware that we stop becoming them and we're just aware, right? But until you've built that muscle of like, oh fuck, I'm aware, and like that's what this is, I'm not sure there's anywhere I'm doing any more than coping. Fuck, that has to change. Yes, baby. Okay. So until you realize how awareness works, you're at the effect of it. That's really what happens. But what a gift. So anyway. So I would become these energies. He was already pre-projecting that I was gonna be mad. I would be aware of them in the form of being mad. That was how awareness was showing up for me, is he was projecting that I was gonna be mad. I was pissed instantly the moment I became aware of it. I would go into total bafflement, like a beyond about why I was pissed, because the thing he was choosing to do, I didn't have a point of view about, but I was pissed. So I was getting confused by the cognitive reality, which is like, I don't care about, like, he can do what he wants. He can, you know, and it would be crazy stuff. Like he wanted to go to spinning in the mornings, but he thought I would be mad that he wasn't walking with me. I mean, like, but I was so aware of his projection and I would become it. I was pissed. And so what was going on for me was I was in that instant doing insanity, like raging, frothing at the mouth, bitch face, you know, to try to balance out the insanity I became aware of because it didn't make any sense. Now, that is not an effective strategy, but that is what coping is. You're trying to cope with what you just became aware of because it's so insane. And all insanity is it's just nonsensical choices, right? Like, it doesn't make sense that he would project that I would be mad when I would never be mad. But that's not, we don't function from logic. We function from what we're being, what we've already decided, all our points of view, all our past reference points, right? That's what we function from, which is why Access Consciousness is such a gift, because we go in and we just destroy and uncreate all that so that you have space to actually choose. So until you've done a lot of access, you're still functioning from all of that shit. So as an aware being, and you guys have always been aware, just so you know, you pick up on all that. And can you imagine this as a kid? Like, picking up on all the insanity that your parents are doing and then trying to balance that out with the insanity of your own, because it doesn't make any sense. And so and Gary has said forever, and I've 7.5 years now, I've been playing with Access Tools, right? I've heard this a million times. I'm going to give you the ultimate in understanding. People choose what they choose because they choose what they choose. I know that. I know that. But here I am, 7.5 years in, a certified facilitator, speaking to the rest of you about these tools, going fucking insane over what I've become aware of because I'm missing a piece or two of information. And here's what's started to change this for me. Now, in the last week, literally this has just started shifting so dynamically in the last week. It's been shifting with the clearing loop and the calls, but in the last week, this is the biggest shift. So here's what happens now. I know I'm becoming aware of shit going on in his world when I start to get mad, okay? And in the last few days, that hit of like, it's fire. You know, I'm a fire sign, by the way, so that's how anger shows up in my world. It's like, so I get that hit of like, ooh. And the first question I've been asking myself is, am I trying to cope with what I just became aware of? And I am getting 100% of the time, yes, when I ask myself that question. Am I trying to cope with what I just became aware of? Yes. Now, what's been really cool about that question is it's instant ease for me, instant space. And what I start to look at is instantly, without asking myself another question, what am I aware of? And it's been so much easier to just have that as awareness. Because the thing about awareness is you don't have to do fuck all about it. You don't have to do anything about it. You're just aware. And you're aware of everything from 8 to 8,000 miles or 800,000 miles in every direction, just depending on who you are. Now, we've made a lot of decisions about, well, if I'm aware, then I have to da-da-da, right? But how aware have you been your whole life? A little bit or a megaton? Did you ever get a manual for how to be aware? I think that's the book I'm writing. Like, here's your manual. There's the manual you should have been given when you were born, right? I never got a manual. It wasn't taped to my ass when I came out of the womb. Like, there was no manual. So we all do the best we can with the tools we've been given, which are very few, if any. And so we just cope. We cope with the level of awareness that we actually have. Yes, it's called Access Foundation. Yeah, that is the manual, totally. So, this is huge. I'm like mind blown. So what coping mechanisms are you using to balance the insanities you are choosing that you think you cannot change? And everything that is times a godzillion. Let's destroy it and create it all. Right, wrong, good, bad, pop, all night, shorts, boys, and mans. Okay, so going back into this example of like being aware of what's going on in his world. So I would instantly become aware of it. I would know I was aware because I was livid. And then I would just feel powerless to change anything. Change me, change the situation, change the fact that I was mad, change the fact that I had just created a fight, change what he was projecting that wasn't even true about me. Like, it went into instant powerlessness to change anything. I mean, this clearing is so dead on that I can't even, again, with the mind blown emoji. I'm just a mind blown emoji doing a show. So what coping mechanisms are you using to balance the insanities you are choosing that you think you cannot change? And everything that is times a godzillion, will you destroy it and create it all? Right, wrong, good, bad, pop, all lane shirts, boys and beyonds. So where are you coping with money? Is there anywhere in your financial reality that you just think you cannot change it? That you've just given up? That you've like, just given up? And everything that is times a godzillion, will you destroy it and create it all? Right, wrong, good, bad, pop, all lane shirts, boys and beyonds. And so the second piece of that is, when you look at your finances, how much do you become aware of? So I have another really random example, not finances, another example of like, I was yesterday combining the garbages like you do when you're taking out a garbage bag. You go upstairs and you get the smaller garbage bags and you like combine them, right? Okay. In one of the garbage cans was a pile of old, you could tell someone had gone through their wallet and like pulled out old shit and put it in that garbage can, and it just caught my eye. So I was looking, and there was a couple of business cards in there from his wallet from women. Whatever. But here's what happened. So going through the garbage can, not going through it, but I'm emptying it. There's not much in there. I see what's in there and I'm pulling it out. Look at it. Instant information looking at the business cards. Instant information. I got like pictures, I got emotions, I got sensations, I got like an instant download. But here's the thing, awareness occurs so fast and it merges with points of view you already have so instantaneously that when you don't know that that's awareness, you fuck yourself, you gaslight yourself, and then you gaslight the other person because you've already gaslit yourself. Trying to cope with what you just became aware of. So this is happening. This is all happening in my bathroom upstairs where I'm merging the garbages, right? So this is like a 2-minute occurrence that could have like created a whole problem. I could have used it to create a problem. I'm right there, I'm getting the download, I'm like, oh, that's a lot of information. It's like being fish slapped, like, so I'm getting all this information and I'm like, holy shit. And so I can feel something, like I can feel a feeling starting to occur. And the first question I asked myself is like, am I trying to cope with what I just became aware of? Yes. So the second question I asked myself is like, is anything required here? No. And then I walked around the house for like another 10 or 20 minutes, just like flabbergasted at the level to which this occurs every single day, every single moment with almost everything that I'm aware of. And so it's like, how much of what you are dealing with is awareness that you have never acknowledged? And everything that is times a godzillion, where you destroy and uncreate it all. Right, wrong, good, bad, pop, pop, lane, shorts, boys, and beyonds. So let's go back to your finances. When you look at your finances, how much do you become aware of? How many people's universes? How many points of view? How many of what you thought was yours? How many of your family's stuff? Like literally, do you get an instant download of universes of awareness? And then how much do you go into coping to try to deal with what you just became aware of that you've decided somewhere so instantaneously is yours? And everything that is, times a godzillion, can we destroy it and create it all? Right, wrong, good, bad, pop, pop, lane, shorts, boys, and beyonds. I mean, so you could take every area of your life, like, let's look at your body reality, right? Okay, so I have functioned most of my life, except for the last 7 years, I've been really changing this, so much of this is different. But it's, I'll give you another example. Well, let's see, yeah. Oh, wow, there's so much here. We split our lives into areas because, like, honestly, when we do whole life classes, they're called foundation. Otherwise, we have to split these into specialty areas. It's like we've got money, we've got body, we've got, X-Men, we've got ghosts, we've got all these different areas, because honestly, the level of awareness we have in all these different areas gets so lumped together that we just have to try to cope with it. And what these classes do is they start to tease apart the depth and the breadth and the capacity for awareness that you actually have, right? So you could take every area of your life and go, am I just coping with my body? And God, if I wasn't just coping, what could I choose, So what coping mechanisms are you using to balance the insanities you are choosing that you think you cannot change? And everything that is times a godzillion, I destroy it and create it all. Right, wrong, good, bad, pop, pop, all night, shorts, boys, and beyonds. And here's the thing, the conversation about awareness and how awareness works for you is integral to this conversation about coping, because you think you have problems. You think that when something goes on between you and another person that you're wrong and you have to fix that. You think that you are bad with business. You think you're bad with money. You think all these terrible gaslighting things about you. When what's really going on is you have instantly, at some point in your life and probably for all of your life, become aware of all the judgment become it to try to balance it out, and now you're trying to cope with the insanity that you're choosing to balance it out, and the insanity that everybody else is choosing. None of it works. So the only thing to do with this shit is start to recognize where and when you're coping with what you just became aware of, and then sit with that, let it unravel and go, okay, cool. If I wasn't coping with what I just became aware of, what could I choose? And then run the fuck out of this clearing. What coping mechanism am I using to balance the insanities I am choosing that I think I cannot change? And everything that is times a godzillion, destroyed and created all. Right, wrong, good, bad, pop, pop, lane, shorts, boys and beyonds. Now listen, there's so many different tools in Access. And I think what happens is that at different times, one tool becomes way more relevant. And so use this if it's relevant for you, if this is reading for you. But the thing that I'm doing right now that I wanted to pass along to you in case it was a contribution is with every single thing that isn't ease and joy and glory, which for me, I choose a lot of ease and joy and glory now. I didn't. So you may not be where I am. It's fine. For every single thing that is not ease and joy and glory, just ask yourself, am I coping here? What awareness am I trying to cope with? And that is going to give you so much awareness of what you're trying to cope with that you can then ask a different question about. Okay, well, if I wasn't just coping, okay, so I'm aware. Oh my gosh, that's a lot, right? Is there anything required? And most of the times there's nothing required. Most of the times it's just awareness. You know, the other person's got shit going on. Those other people got shit. The whole world, I don't know if you've noticed, has shit going on. And go, okay, cool. Well, I don't have to cope. I can thrive. So if I were choosing to thrive here, what would I choose? And see what shows up for you. That's it. That's what I'm doing. I am literally applying this to every single thing in my world that doesn't show up as ease and joy and glory. And it's, yeah, I can't tell you how much it's empowering me with the awareness of how fucking aware I am and how much I become aware of how instantaneously. And, you know, I get that the more of us that are willing to really get that and function as those aware beings, the more this world will change. So I don't know if you're one of those, but if you are, oh, take this and run with it. Take this and apply this to every area of your life. Take this and apply this to anything that's not ease, joy, and glory for you. And I am so excited to see what can show up. And if you would like a more personal conversation about this, I'd really like to invite you to the Going Beyond Reaction call that's happening October 6th. And you can go to my website. I didn't link it, but I'm like, oh, well, come to that call too, because that's also got an epic clearing loop, and I'll add another one on coping. Yeah, fuck. Wow. So one more time for fun. What coping mechanisms are you using to balance the insanities you are choosing that you think you cannot change? And everything that is times a godzillion, will you destroy it and create it all? Right, wrong, good, bad, pop, pop, online shirts, boys and beyonds. Oh! For a conscious world, for you, if you know a friend that would like this, please share it with them. And otherwise, I will see you guys again next week.